Hey guys, today we're going to pit two iconic watches against each other and compare them. These two are icons amongst two brands that are widely recognized amongst watch enthusiasts. That is the Omega Silver Snoopy Speedmaster, which is the 45th anniversary limited edition tribute to Apollo 13 mission. And the right we have the white dial ceramic Daytona. So both these watches are similar in the sense that they both have white dials, they both are chronographs, and at this point I believe they're both pretty sought out after in the watch market. So to compare and contrast, I have divvied up the comparison into 10 categories. The categories are dial, bezel, bracelet and clasp, design, movement, versatility, lume and caseback being one category, wrist feel, history, and resale value. So, not to waste any more time, just to start, we'll just jump into the first category, which is the dial. Both these dials are pretty familiar to watch enthusiasts everywhere. Coming to this Silver Snoopy, it is a white dial with the applied on markers. You can see it's a little bit hour markers, and the three symmetric subdials. The Silver Snoopy is different from the traditional Speedmaster in a couple of areas. Of course, one is the white dial, usually the traditional one being the black dial. And of course, this being a special edition silver, the Snoopy is the Snoopy from the cartoon Peanuts. This, I believe, is the second edition of a Snoopy Speedmaster. I believe the first one was released in 2003, but this is definitely one of the most significant Snoopy editions out there, because it has both one on there, and I'll get back later the Snoopy on the back as well. But going back to the dial, it has a Snoopy on the left subdial, on the second hand subdial. Also, if you look carefully, you can see in the center Snoopy's thought bubble saying failure is not an option, and on the right 14 seconds it says what could you do in 14 seconds, referring to the astronauts who actually timed their, I believe, retro rockets in the Apollo 13 mission when their computers broke down, and was essential for coming back to Earth. There is a Swiss made on underneath the 6 hour marker, but definitely this I will give a 10, because I could keep on staring at this dial for hours on end. And coming here to the Rolex Daytona, it's a white dial, beautiful symmetric subdials as well, applied indices in a Rolex crown. It has that big red Daytona above the center subdial in the Swiss made. This reflects light pretty in different angles. It has a different look. This also is pretty iconic. It looks like looks like the Paul Newman, but of course it's not the Paul Newman. But definitely has that vintage look to it, and both of these dials actually contrast to the bezel pretty well and giving it more legibility. I'm giving both of them a 10 out of 10. And coming to the second category, it is the bezel. Going to the Rolex Daytona, it's the highlight of the new edition is the ceramic bezel compared to the steel bezel, and it is pretty much scratch resistant. It does have the applied markers on it, but it is pretty well legible as well. Um, that definitely gives a good contrast to the white dial. It makes it actually look better. I forgot to mention that this is 40 millimeters and this is 42 millimeters case size. The bezel on this Silver Snoopy is a ceramic as well, and it actually has the markers on the tachymeter scale actually have a lume, so at night or in the dark it actually lights up as well, which gives it a very nice look as well. So for both of the bezels, I will give them each a 10 as well. Now coming to the next one is where we start to have a little bit of a difference, and that goes to bracelet and clasp. And first of all, I can tell you first of all the Silver Snoopy. It comes on it's a textile strap by Omega, and it has a white contrast stitching, which makes it a very good, gives it a kind of a two-tone feel, so to speak. It's very comfortable, very nice bracelet, and it has an Omega clasp at the back that you can actually pull out. It snaps back out very easily, and you can actually adjust it there too to your size. I will give that a very nice customized Omega strap. And then the right we have the Rolex Daytona bracelet, which is a beautiful stainless steel bracelet, solid links. It has an end-link clasp as well. A beautiful finish as expected from Rolex. This one definitely is, I will give it in favor of the Rolex Daytona. I'm giving that a 10, giving the Omega an 8. It's just that this bracelet is hard to beat. And this one, no offense, but it is a great strap, very versatile, but it can't compare equally to the Daytona. The number 4 is the design actually of the watch itself, and of course this is traditional manual wind with the twisted lugs. You can see, as anybody with the traditional Speedmaster has, it is a 42 millimeter watch. It basically has the same design as the traditional Speedmaster, which is the most iconic model, in my opinion, of the Omega brand. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, with the Omega of the Snoopy quotes as well, giving it tribute to the Apollo 13. This is a limited edition as well of 1970 pieces, and with the enamel case back, which I'll tell you about later. This is definitely has, and this is black second arm markers as well, second hand as well, giving a good contrast against the white dial. It's much more legible and has a sapphire glass, which is makes it basically the whole case scratch resistant. This I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. And you might be surprised here, but the design here is this is an iconic design, of course. The applied indices make it reflect off light pretty well, and it's very symmetrical as well. As I mentioned, I do love the red Daytona, which pops out. But that being said, a couple of things that is in contrast with the Omega is because it reflects off light pretty well. Sometimes it's hard to actually to note the time. Sometimes when you're looking at light, you have to probably turn a little bit. In the Omega, you turn any angle, you probably see the time pretty well. The second thing is, of course, I'm not a big fan. Well, it makes it more water resistant, but the screw down crowns, even just to press the chrono, you have to screw it out. As people probably know, screw out the stopper and then press, and then it does help with diving, but for me, for practicality, I would say I'd give the design a 10 here and a 9 for the Daytona, and that is my opinion. Coming to the movement on the Omega Speedmaster is a Lemania 1861, very solid movement, and it has, I believe, a 48-hour power reserve, which is pretty decent. It's a manual wind chrono. In comparison, I believe the Rolex is the Daytona is the 40-30 automatic winding chronograph, but it fully wound. When you fully wound, it can actually have a 70-hour power reserve. So comparing both of them, it is a little advantage to the Rolex here. I would give that a 10, and the Omega a 9. If this was a caliber 321, of course, then I'll probably consider giving the Omega also a 10. But unfortunately, it's a 1861 Lemania movement, which is still pretty decent. Coming to the next one, which is versatility of both watches. This I will have to give both of them a 10. Both these watches, the Speedmaster has a lot of, you can wear with casual dress occasions. You can wear it, you can add a strap on it if you different shapes of straps, and it has a different look each time. This watch can definitely fit under a cuff, and it can go outside as well in a casual setting. Beautiful. Same thing with the Rolex. The Rolex, you can go casual. You can go, of course, this is water resistant. I do feel a little concerned. I mean, I believe this is a water resistant to 100 meter, but I would definitely be a little more concerned about if going underwater with this one. But that being said, you can go in any occasion here. Both of them I do give for versatility a 10 out of 10. The next one, which is one of my favorite ones, is the lume and caseback. So the lume of the Omega Speedmaster, and I forgot to mention, is in addition to the tachometer being loomed up in the middle of the night or in darkness, you also have the Snoopy himself being lit up, and the Omega definitely has an advantage on the lume aspect. The lume of the Daytona is also pretty good. It has it on the basically more on the hour markers, on the plight indices, and I love looking at the backs of my watches, and so here definitely the Omega Speedmaster has an advantage as well. This one, it says Silver Snoopy, Eyes on the Stars. It has a beautiful silver 3D appearance of a silver a Snoopy in an astronaut suit made of silver, and in a with a enamel of the like a dark blue, I would say, starry sky, and it says the number on the of the edition on it, whereas the Daytona basically has, as you probably doesn't have any, it just shows that oyster case back, which is a little boring, so to say, compared to to the Omega ones. Let me just I was trying to get the loom on, but I guess couldn't. But I'll try to see if I can show that in another time. I will give the loom and case back a 10 on the Omega, and the Rolex I would give an 8. The loom and case back, I think that fell a little short of expectations. Both. Next one I give is the wrist feel. The wrist feel of both watches definitely feel very, very comfortable. This feels like a 42. This wears more than a 40 because of the bezel, And the contrast of the white and black is timeless. The stainless steel bracelet also, it doesn't have a heavy feel to it. So I definitely give both of them a 10 for wrist feel. The next one is the history of the model itself, and here it kind of gives a difference in opinion, but this Omega Speedmaster is definitely the most iconic model of Omega, and the Silver Snoopy, because of the historic significance being a limited edition 1970 pieces to the Apollo 13 mission, and I basically attribute to the mission in which the watch was used to basically save lives. The Daytona is, of course, a racing iconic model, reference to the Paul Newmans, but the thing that it does, I don't think it has as much of a history compared to the Speedmaster. Another thing I believe was the Rolex Cosmograph. I believe they were in competition with Speedmaster for getting that NASA approval, and then was subsequently changed to just basically the Daytona. But I'm thinking from a historic standpoint, the Speedmaster does edge out the Daytona by a hair, in my opinion. I think also the Daytona is not the most iconic model for Rolex. I think it is the Submariner, but that's just my opinion. The next one is the resale value. In most cases, I would say that Rolex has an advantage, but this particular edition of the Omega Speedmaster is, I believe it retailed for 7,300, and I believe the Rolex Daytona retails for 12,000. But currently, both of them are way above retail value, selling for implements of themselves. I think the Rolex, being as Rolex is always notorious to be having a relative short supply of their most wanted models, and hence the price drives up. And this Omega Speedmaster, the demand for it is so high for the Silver Snoopy, being 1970 pieces only, and there's so many Omega fans out there that it drives up the price as well. And I think this is a future collectible, and I think the price might only keep on going to up. I believe that it's almost twice the amount of its market value at this point. So I think resale value for both of them, if you go in the market, they're pretty hot items, and so the resale value for both of them are 10. So adding them up, actually, I just had the Omega edge out the Rolex. I'm sorry, it's crumbled, but 97 to 96. I think it's very close, and I was a little surprised, but I think comparing the loom and the case back, I think God gave it Omega a little bit more of an edge. Although the movement and the bracelet of the Rolex, it definitely has an advantage over the Omega. So it depends on personal preference, but I think both watches are great to buy, and definitely you will not be disappointed by it. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. I do apologize not showing the loom of the watches, but hopefully maybe at a later time. Thank you.